All right, you're here with Greg Davis and special guest Richard Allen Ceraolo III on the Greg Davis podcast. This is take one, and today on February 26th...
You got it wrong already.
Oh, shit. February 27th, 2015.
And it's the second.
The second what?
Richard Allen Ceraolo the second.
We'll call you the third today.
Oh, yes.
We're going to be talking about the Oakland Raiders because Richard is, in fact, a diehard Oakland Raider fan.
Lifelong, born and raised.
Well, Richard, today I think we'll be looking a little bit about how the season went for the Raiders last year and some of their potential needs for the upcoming season. Maybe some of your projections, some of your keen insights.
Sounds good. All right.
So, hey, let's get the ball rolling. Your Raiders I'm sorry, what was the record last season?
Back-to-back 4-12 seasons.
4-12. So there's plenty of room to improve.
It's an Allen special.
Allen, I'm not familiar with the name. Is he still with the team?
Oh, no. He's just some hot up-and-coming defensive coordinator, you know.
I see.
You know.
So let's talk about this 4-12 season. Now, going into the season, of course, there weren't many high hopes. The Broncos had just come off a record-setting season the year before. The Chiefs were ascendant. Maybe it was an anomaly with Alex Smith under center. And even the Chargers, old Phillip Rivers, had his legs under him. So the Raiders didn't look like they had a shot coming into the season as far as the division was concerned. But what were your takes entering last year?
Well, you know, they were selling high hopes, you know, with the little spending spree that they spent, you know, trying to meet cap minimum, but they can't even meet the cap minimum, spending, you know, 40, 50, 60 million dollars on aging veterans that, you know, were washed up and came to Oakland for, you know, a payday. But they had high hopes, and you know, but with the coming off of a 4-12 season, you know, how good can you really get? So Allen, you know, Dennis Allen, was a up and coming defensive coordinator for Denver. And Reggie McKenzie, you know, he interviews one person and falls in love with, you know, the first bride that steps up. And
so, needless to say, you're not pleased with your team at this point.
Oh, not so, you know. Well, but you know, you're a Raider fan, and you stick with them, and you're there for the glory years, but you gotta stick with the bad years.
So let's start at the draft. They take Khalil Mack overall, and I was sitting with you when they took that pick, and I know that you weren't happy when it happened, but it turns out he was one of the brighter spots on the team in 2014.
Definitely. I think they got lucky with him just falling into their laps with the draft, and I was on the Johnny Football train, and I was wrong, you know, but you know.
Some say we had us for quitters, but we wish Johnny Manziel the best and hope that he can come back from his addiction to.
But if he wants to party for one night, he can hit me up, because I'd be down for that. But anyways, Khalil Mack, awesome year. You know, he was the top-rated. One of the top-rated linebackers against the run in all of football, let alone being in a rookie. And the sacks weren't there, but, you know, towards the end of the season, when the team was doing better, I believe they won their last 3 out of the 6 games of this season. And those games went with Khalil Mack's best games, and he was picking up a couple sacks. I think he ended the season with 3 or 4 sacks, which isn't bad if you're making tackles and for loss in the run game, and you're getting double teamed as a rookie. So as he learns new moves and, you know, just doesn't try to bull rush his way through the line, I think he's gonna up and coming promising linebacker for the Raiders, which they haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, and isn't there another linebacker, another young Raiders linebacker who also showed flashes this past season that you can look forward to having on your roster?
I think, I think C.O. Moore is Reggie McKenzie's best find and best draft pick that he's made as the tenure of the Raiders GM. And I think he's awesome. That was a little reason why I didn't want Khalil Mack for the draft, because I knew he was going to take C.O. Moore's position, where they were talking about playing him on the outside linebacker.
Sure.
And on the strong side, and I liked what C.O. Moore did. We got him with the 4th round draft pick, and he plays as a starter and a high caliber starter. So I think with him going to the weak side, I didn't know what to expect, and I think we have our bookend linebackers of the future. You can go with them for the next 10 years, and I think we'd be solid. Now we just got to find that Patrick Willis to fit right in the middle there, and I think our defense would be massively improved.
Now, looking at the other side of the football, there was another rookie on the Raiders who actually stood out. Somebody with a cannon of an arm, as it were.
Yeah, a little California bred, Fresno, Derek Carr, Bulldog. Can I, all my dogs in the house? Woo, 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 woo. Hey, don't make me be a lone wolf here.
So, Derek Carr, some would argue he was actually the best quarterback drafted last year.
I think so. Teddy Bridgewater had a really good rookie season also. I think he put up, a couple thousand yards and had a good touchdown to interception ratio and did pretty good. But I believe Carr was the best draft pick rookie coming out of last year. And this guy is already a man at a young age. He's married, he's got kids, he's got good Christian values, and he's in the building, first in the building, last in the building. He loves the game of football.
Yeah, under the tutelage of his brother, surely he learned a lot about the ins and outs of the game, especially at the pro level. His brother was taken, first overall for the Texans way back when?
He was on this podium when he got drafted. And he
That's
told
insider information.
The commissioner shook his hand. He told the commissioner, "I'm gonna be back here," and and that's the will and the drive, and I think the making of a champion inside of him, and to go with his cannon of an arm, his intelligence. I think that's what makes the quarterback a great quarterback. A Montana, a Peyton Manning, Brady, Drew Brees, Rodgers, all the top quarterbacks. Yeah, they're gifted, they're big, they got cannons of arms, but intellectually, they're smarter than everybody. And
Sure.
They break it down.
They're able to look at the defense, they're able to dissect what the defense is trying to do, and they know what their receiver is going to do, and therefore they're able to exploit the holes in the defense. I absolutely agree with you.
And I think, and that's going to be Carr's best attribute. Not his cannon of an arm, his big body, the being able to grow up as a brother in the NFL, growing up as a kid on the facility, going to the same college as your brother, you're already royalty going in, and you just pick up all that knowledge, and they get the best out of you. So I think he's got a bright future. Now we just need to get him some weapons, because he didn't have any help this year. He had a great job. He led some late game TD drives, and I think he showed a lot of improvement as the season went on. Let's face it, their wide receiver core was the worst in the league. Their offensive line could not run block for them. Their running game was non-existent until Latavius Murray. Excuse me. Latavius Murray came into the season, and that was the last 5-6 games to go with their little winning streak, and MJD there's no more tread on those tires.
Yeah, MJD was one of the big pickups of the previous offseason to complement
to go with that
Mr. McFadden.
Yeah. They pick up McFadden for $100 million guaranteed. It was a proven deal. He actually had a respectable season. He stayed healthy for the first time. He ran hard. It just, the runs just weren't there. But when Murray came in, it was night and day of difference. It was a real back. It was somebody you can look to going into season that can win a legitimate starter, that can legitimately win a starting job.
We saw Latavius Murray bust off those 2 really long touchdown runs on the Thursday nighter that really introduced him to the world.
Definitely, that was such a great game. Oh, in the pouring rain, it was in the black hole. It's against one of your arch rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I was there. I'm soaking wet. I'm on the 50-yard line talking crap to the Chief players. And the black hole was a rocking that night, and Latavius Murray just made the night and brought the Raiders to their first win. And it felt like it was our Super Bowl. Let me tell you, when you're 0-11, it just feels like you're never gonna win a game. So it was his coming out party.
He was the spark.
That spark. And it started that engine, and they drove it that night. And that was a great night for Carr, too.
That was. So you look at those, say, 3 or 4 bright spots, those young players who are probably going to be with the team.
I would throw a TJ Carey in there, too.
Defensive back?
A nice up-and-coming defensive back. I thought he held his own as a cornerback, for a rookie coming in to play in a quarterback starting probably around 8 games, with injuries throughout the season. I thought he was a great return man, whether it was punts or kickoffs. I think he's up and coming. Jelly on the defensive line. I thought that was a good pickup, number 4 on the round draft pick. They got a starting offensive left guard in the draft too, and they got some nice young pieces.
There's some things that the Raiders did well in 2014.
I thought their MVP was C. Wood, the oldest guy on the team.
Yeah,
he comes back for last 2 seasons ago. Trying to play one last season for the team that drafted him. Dying. Deep down inside his heart, I think he'll always think of himself as a Raider. And his season, he gave up some touchdowns, but man, the jumping over the backs to get the tackles, the heart he shows through the game, and I think he's a good presence for the youngsters coming in as the Raiders build through the draft.
There are a couple really nice pieces going forward. You guys definitely have some bright spots to look forward to. What did you do poorly this past season, aside from, say, the running game until week 11 or 12, like we were talking about?
I think it started with our off season. I think with about $65 million to spend, available right. in the cap. You went and signed these old, 2-year deals. The best thing they did with those signings were they can cut them in the following year.
Valdir was more or less let go.
Valdir was he's a starting left tackle. He is one of the best left tackles. There's a reason why he signed in the first 5-10 minutes of free agency.
The offensive line, as a whole, was really a mishmash.
Definitely, it was guys going in and out. But we signed older veteran left tackle. His name is John Blank right now, but he was great. He was actually rated in the top 10 for left tackles for the season, and he was really good. I thought he played great, and I hope he comes back next year. I believe he was on a 2-year deal, so I think he is. They signed they drafted Gabe Jackson in the 3rd round, and everybody said that was a steal and one of the best up and coming left guards. So I think that's great. Wiz, he hasn't gone to that next step like he was when he was playing left guard. They switched him over to center, and he just hasn't taken that step forward.
He's a free agent right now.
Yeah.
Do you expect them to re-sign Wisniewski?
I think they're going to let him test the waters.
His heart will probably always lie in Oakland, surely.
Oh, definitely. I think he'll be a Raider for life. But, they're kind of going back and forth on what the value is, and I think they're going to let him test the waters to see what his worth is.
Okay. So,
but the right side's a mess. They went and made a big signing for a right tackle, Terrence Howard, and they push him into the inside as a guard, and he just had a terrible year. Not a right tackle. Their draft pick from a couple years ago, Meredith Watson, who they got when they traded down before this drafted DJ Hayden, who hasn't played for them. Looks promising at times, but they haven't played. You got to be on the field. But, they drafted that right tackle, and he hasn't played. Meredith Watson, he's been injured too, and he shows some promise this year, but I think he's got a lot of work to come. He was only played football for, 4 or 5 years in his life. So I think he's a project.
What do you think about the defensive line? You went out. There's Justin Tuck on the defensive line.
They signed Woodley.
We had Woodley. There was some promise there.
There was
with again the aging veterans that we mentioned.
Yeah. There's the Ninja Assassin. They signed too, Antonio Smith. Those are the 3 older veterans that they signed. I thought Woodley was a complete bust. He played 6 games, and even though those 6 games he played, it was at a backup, role. It was even production as a starter. It was a backup starter, So that was one of the people I think they'll cut. They'll save about $5 million on the cap for when they cut Woodley. Tuck, I thought had definitely. He had a presence on the team on the defensive side as a veteran, and I thought that was key as we try to change the culture and as the Raiders, from this god awful
4-12 culture is no good for you.
13-year losing streak. Oh man!
Last time you guys had a winning season, it was
the
Super Bowl year.
But so I think he'll be back. Antonio Smith was hit or miss. I don't know if he'll be back or not, but I think he was okay. But we got Justin Ellis, Jelly, and I thought that was a good draft pick. But I think we need an edge rusher. We need to get some pressure on the quarterback for sure.
Well, let's look forward. Now, the Raiders have a great draft position this year.
Wait. There's one thing you can't leave out of the 2014 season.
Well, I was trying to jump past the 2014 season just so this kind of thing wouldn't pop up.
Let's do it.
Say your piece, Richard.
Go. No, go.
So let's look forward. Now, the Raiders are projected to have $60+ million in cap space again. You're looking at a really deep draft for a couple of key positions, including pass rusher and wide receiver, both of which are glaring needs for the Raiders. What direction do you see them going in the draft?
I think you gotta wait and see what they do in free agency. So right now they got about $54 million in the cap. They just announced they're going to cut Tyvon Branch. That's another $3 million. So that's you go to 57. You know, you cut Woodley. There's another 5. So you're at 62 million. Cut Schaub. There's another 5. 67, and you cut a couple, and Maurice Jones-Drew, I think we all think he's done right, so there's another couple million. You're looking at about $7 million to spend this year. There's a couple ways you can go. You can go with Sue and get the monster fish on the market, you know, the big beast that will bring a presence to your team. You're going to have to probably give him a 5-year, $100 million contract, you know, or you can go and use that 100 million and you can start adding great pieces, not great pieces, but really good pieces around in multiple spots on your team. So I think those are the two aspects that are going to, predict the course for the Raiders draft.
Where do you see them going in free agency? Where would you like to see them go? There's been a glut of wide receivers who've been cut recently. Mid-tier, your Brandon Gibsons of the world, people like that. Your Harry Douglases. Potentially Wes Welker out there. Where do you see them going? Do you see them picking up one of those wide receivers?
I think we got to wait and see who gets tagged. You know, there's Des Bryant. He's a free agent. Is that Walmart video ever going to really come
What's
out?
on that video? This is February 27th. We have not seen the video.
You know, this takes place in 2011.
4 years ago.
Who's trying to hold him up, you know? Trying to get a nice little payday. But, you know, Cowboys would be fools to not tag him.
Oh, sure.
So I think he gets tagged. You know,
why don't they give him a long-term deal and tag DeMarco?
Because do you want to spend that much money on a running back? Can they afford it on the cap for 1 year?
Maybe.
You know, he was the best running back for the season.
Their offensive line is... Well, maybe.
So I think that...
Anyways.
Yeah. So
a question for a different podcast.
I think there's no way Dez gets let loose.
Sure.
So I think there's no way Broncos let Thomas loose, Denarius Thomas loose either.
Right.
You know, those would be the two cats I would want. So if they're off the board, I'm hoping that Cobb becomes a little free agent here in a couple days. And guess who drafted Cobb?
McKenzie.
Good old McKenzie. So
Your favorite.
I think we got a little tie-in. I think he is a nice weapon. He's not necessarily a number one receiver, but I think he's a weapon that he can do everything, you know, in that Sproles mold. And I don't think we have any weapons, and I think he would be a nice complement to Murray. And, you know, you can use him in the backfield with him. You can, he would be a nice complement with Reese out there. You can throw him in the little quick screens in the slot. So I think that's the number one receiver I want. You know, out on free agency. You know, the receivers you're talking about are a little old. You know, I think Welker's done a little one too many concussions. I think he's got his money. He should probably hang up the cleats.
What do you think about Percy Harvin?
Oh, I would love Percy Harvin. So that's kind of the same mold as a Cobb,
and probably a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Percy's gonna command some attention coming out. I think he is a diva, but either one of those would be awesome. I don't think you go and get both of them. I think those are two birds are alike.
Sure.
So that's the receiver way I would go. I think you can look at the Raiders to take one of those stud receivers in the top of the draft.
Do you think that they would go receiver before pass rusher at that spot?
Yes. I think you got your quarterback. They've made it a point that Carr's their back. quarterback. So I think there's only one way for him to get better, and that's for him to have some weapons. If you can get a Cobb, a Percy, there's your utility, your utility man. Your little baseball reference there, and then you go and you get him that number one. I like Kevin White over Amari Cooper.
Wow, he looks really good.
Oh, did you see him at the combine?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
He looks incredible.
You like that little 4.3 speed with that 6.3 frame? What is it, like 250?
He's out of West Virginia.
Yeah,
Right?
West Virginia. He's huge and fast. They say his number one attribute is his high point of the ball, and his speed. And
you can't teach high point or speed.
And you can't teach size.
Yeah. Well, what about the offensive line? Would you address that in the mid rounds of the draft, or are you looking at free agency?
Offensive line. So I like Wiz. I want Wiz back. I would like to see Wiz move over to right guard. We sign him, move him to guard, and we pick up Hudson, or I think his name is Hudson, or the Chiefs center that's a free agent. He's the number one guard / or number one center on the market, and he's a stud. He's a Pro Bowler. So if we can pluck him from an enemy, plug in a Pro Bowler at center, and I think it would be I think it's an upgrade. I love Wiz. He's royalty. Raider royalty, and he'll be a Raider for life. But I'm looking for upgrades. Del Rio says he's not looking for the winning in the future. He's talking about winning now. He's got his core. So I think we gotta add pieces that are good, legitimate, in their prime players. Not these old players. Let's spend the money on the good players. The players that you can sign for 4 years, 5 years, and it's going to be in their prime. And that's the route we got to go. No matter whether it's a wide receiver, a Cobb, a Julius Thomas. I think, a Reggie Bush can be a nice third down back complementary piece to Murray and Reese in the backfield. You can have a Sue, a Terrence Knighton, a Nate Irving linebacker to plug in the middle, So that's what we got to do. We got to add good, solid pieces. That's what I look for Reggie McKenzie to do this offseason.
Now, you just mentioned Jack Del Rio. Your coaching staff, all brand new, it to me looks fantastic with Del Rio in the head spot. I love both of your coordinators.
Unlike that coaching staff across the bay. have you seen those press conferences? They're a joke.
I think this is focusing on the Raiders.
Okay. Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio.
And not to mention Ken Norton.
Oh man,
one of my personal favorite Niners of all time.
I'm kind of glad Mike Smith wanted to take a spaghettical, take a little break from football, and we got turned down by a college coach too. But I think Ken Norton was a prize waiting to wait for, and coming off of that disappointing Super Bowl, I don't know how you don't just turn around and give it to beast mode. But his defense played great, and his linebackers played great, and they got that Super Bowl MVP. What was his name? Smith, Michael Smith, Malcolm Smith. Malcolm Smith. Who knew of Malcolm Smith? Ken Norton did a great job with him, a 7th round draft pick, I believe, and Super Bowl MVP. I think he's got great leadership, and he knows the game, was a great pro.
He's been a winner at every level.
Been with Pete Carroll. All that Pete Carroll's winning was Norton's winning also. Plus, he played with Del Rio for the Cowboys. So I think they go way back, and I think he's got a great up and coming defensive coordinator in the making.
And what about the offensive coordinator? How do you feel about that side?
I was kind of rooting for a little Trustman there, but they had different views, I guess. I'm drawing a blank on the new offensive coordinator's name.
Well, I certainly can't help you with that. Well, let's talk about the future and the 2015. I know it's difficult before the draft, before you have any free agent signings, but what kind of a record do you look for the Raiders to complete the season with?
I think it's a little too early to talk about that.
You have to give us some prediction.
I'd like to see. All right. Here's my prediction. I'd like to see a couple good free agents. A little Terrence Knighton. Go and get the Julius Thomas at tight end. So you got a defensive tackle. You got a nice tight end. You got a weapon for your quarterback. Maybe a Cobb if you can pluck him from a Packers. And maybe a offensive lineman in free agency. So I think a nice little base like that, I think would be solid. You build through your draft picks in the draft. We got all 7 this year. I would like to see a little trade back action. I would love to give the number 4th pick for Cleveland's 12th and 19th number roll, and maybe get a little something extra. I would love to make a little trade with the Eagles. I'll drop back till the 20th pick. Why not? I don't care if we're going to get a boatload of picks to set us up for the future. And that's where the Raiders are right now. They're about winning now, but we all know they're a couple years out. I'd like to see them have a 6-win, 7-win season, be competitive in the games. None of these 52-0 blowouts. None of this embarrassment of going to Europe and getting blown out. And the games that are just set you back when you take one step forward, those blowouts take you 3 steps back. So I want to see a consistent team that's always giving it their all. A Jack Del Rio mental, tough football team. Be competitive.
So 4-12?
No. I think they're gonna go make some free agents. I think that if McKenzie has a great draft like he had last year, I think we're looking at a 7-win, 8-win team. I think they could do the 500.
Bold, very bold statement.
I think they're Peyton's almost done, if not done. I don't think he's all invisible Peyton anymore. If the Chiefs really think they're going to go and win the division and win the Super Bowl with Alex Smith, they got another thing coming. And, Rivers is legit. Chargers are going to be there. But I think the AFC's West is there for the taking.
All right. And one last point we should probably touch on before we leave you for this evening. Where are the Raiders going to play beyond next season? There's been talks, there's been rumors of a joint stadium in Carson with San Diego. And there's also been talks of the Rams coming out that I think would be maybe a different part of LA. But the Rams also coming out to LA with Kroenke wanting to bring the team back out west. So you're potentially looking at a shared stadium sort of scenario. What are your thoughts about that? And where do you think the Raiders are going to go with their home in the future?
Well, as a season ticket holder living in the Bay Area, I hope they stay. But, they deserve their own stadium. I think it's a joke that they play on the baseball field during the season. They're the last team to, A's and the Raiders are the last teams in both sports to play in the Sheriff Stadium. So there needs to be something done. And, the Coliseum was built, wow, what, like
That's old.
60s, 70s,
Yeah.
70s? And it's concrete brick. But it's our concrete brick, and I'd like to see a new one built right there in Oakland. I don't think. Well, we all know.
I think we'd all like to see a new stadium built in Oakland.
Definitely.
But
I
is
think
the city of Oakland going to comply? Are they going to help?
Well, Mark Davis doesn't have the capital to build it on his own. I think he's got about $500 million ready to go right now. But that's not going to build you a stadium. You need, about $1 billion nowadays, if not more. And the city of Oakland, they got a new mayor. They got rid of Gene Kwan, who obviously was not worried about having sports in Oakland, because let's face it, there could be no teams in Oakland. They go from 3 to 0. The Warriors are already gone. And the A's want to move to San Jose. And right now it looks like the Raiders might be going to Carson. But they got a new mayor. I think her name is Libby Shaft. And she's a born and raised Oakland girl. And, she loves her Raiders and A's. And she's a big-time sports fan, but she's made it clear that she's not going to give money for her stadium. She's all about building the infrastructure around the stadium, new hotels, new businesses, new restaurants, bars, and, building housing development all around it for the infrastructure, but she will not give any money for a stadium. And then that's where we come to a point where, what are you going to do?
If it has to be privately funded, can they not raise enough money from any of the haymakers down in the Silicon Valley to pitch in a couple $100 million here and there?
That's what I don't understand. Is everybody, have their money invested on that Levi Stadium? I can't believe that, Where's the big time companies in the Bay Area? I mean, we're in one of the richest parts of our nation, let alone the world, And I can't believe Facebook hasn't set it up. You got all the Ubers, you got the tech companies, the Oracle, right?
That guy set up the whole boat race in
why
the
not,
San Francisco Bay.
There you go. Why not Clorox?
Elon Musk from Tesla.
Yeah, like there's so much money in the Bay Area, and I can't believe somebody hasn't stepped up yet. So Mark Davis has to do what he's got to do, and he's got to get a stadium. He's made that clear. He's put money recently into, new practice facility right here in Oakland, redid the whole facility, new weight room, fields, everything, making it state-of-the-art. And, because, let's face it, they're stuck in the 90s. And, but he's got to get a stadium. And if they're going to give money and team up with San Diego and LA, I mean, that's what he's got to do. It's $1.7 billion as they're saying the stadium's going to be. It would be privately funded. So I wonder how all of that's going to be privately funded. But supposedly they can make it work. And if you can get a new stadium, I guess that's what you got to do.
Hopefully by the time the stadium's open, the bullet train from San Francisco to LA will be up, and you can
that'd be nice.
Make a day trip down there.
Hey, I'm a Southwest it. I Southwest it when I lived in LA up to Oakland for the games, and I'm a Raider fan, all through and through. Even if I'm living in the Bay, they're in LA. I'll never root for the other team in the Bay, and
we'll leave it at that.
Make my trips down.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us today. For Richard Allen Ceraolo the second, I'm Greg Davis. Have a terrific night.